It's all about assets and liabilities. Like if we're talking financial literacy, it's real simple. Most people suck at making money and saving money, right? So you make money by gaining more skills and capabilities. You get paid more because you're solving bigger problems. People suck at saving money because we all live in this, what's in it for me, entitled, I want it now, energy field where people's lives are being thrown at us constantly on social media. And we feel this FOMO trying to keep up with everybody. And we want nice things and we want nice experiences. And we lie to ourselves and we justify it by saying, I deserve this. But the challenge is you got to sacrifice for a while to get the investing machine rolling. If you never want to get it rolling, make money, spend it immediately on cars and clothes and vacations. If you want to get it going, you got to live below your means, save as much as you can, and then immediately start deploying that into assets.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest on this episode is Cody Sperber. He's a Navy veteran, a real estate expert. He is also known as a clever investor and has flipped and consulted on more than 1,000 property. He's an extremely active real estate investor, buys, sells, and rents properties. He's also an international speaker, educator, and mentor with the most followed real estate account on Instagram. He's amassed over 1.2 million on Instagram. Cody is also the CEO and founder of Clever Investor, a real estate investment and mentoring education company, providing real estate investing education and software applications to investors. On this episode, we're going deep, talking wealth, talking real estate investing, talking about how you could get involved, even if you don't even have any money to get involved in real estate, which sounds too good to be true, but trust me, it's not. And Cody lays out the exact game plan on how to do it. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Check it out. Cody, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. So
I'm excited to have you here. And I mean, for the listeners who I guess have not been following along, they've been lazy, or for whatever reason, they haven't been paying attention to you and they haven't been following along on your journey like I have. Why don't you give them a little bit of background into how you became, I guess, the clever investor and I guess a wildly successful real estate mogul?
Yeah, I've been investing for over 17 years now and started with no money down real estate because I didn't have any money. When I got out of the Navy, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a marine biologist. I thought that would be a pretty kick butt job. But the problem is I'm from Arizona. And when I joined the Navy, I didn't really think it through and I get violently seasick. So the thought of like living your whole life on a ship or a boat just wasn't going to work. So backup plan was history teacher. When I was a little kid, I thought being a history teacher would be cool. I went down and talked to some of the history professors at San Diego State Community College. Now, this is community college, not even college, community college. And I said, how do you like your job? How are things going financially for you? And they just laughed when I got to the money conversation. And one of the guys blurted out that he has 2 jobs just to support himself. Wow. And that stuck, right? And I was like, oh, maybe history isn't a good thing. I just got lucky, man, to be honest with you. A friend of mine flipped a house, made $80,000, pulled up in a brand new Mercedes. Me and him used to party. And I'm like, dude, how did you get a Mercedes? Like, I'm driving this piece of crap used Nissan pickup truck. And he's like, yeah, I wholesaled a house. And I had never heard of wholesaling before. I had never heard of no money down real estate. I thought of real estate like a realtor, or rich people owned real estate after they, made a lot of money. They bought apartments or houses and stuff and rented them out. And he was talking about transactional real estate, where you essentially, there's no risk in it because you're essentially finding a distressed house or a distressed seller, working out a deal to buy their property, negotiating with them, putting it under contract as if you're going to buy it. You haven't bought it yet. You just did the work to find them and negotiate and put it under contract. And in the United States, that contract, when you sign a contract with another person to buy their property, you gain what's called equitable interest. And that means you kind of control their house. They can't go sell it to somebody else once they sign a contract with you legally. And so you kind of control the deal. And so let's say it's worth 200 and you're somehow, because it needs a bunch of repairs or they're extremely motivated and maybe they lost their job or in foreclosure or medical issues, legal issues. There's a million reasons people screw their lives up, right? and you get it under contract for maybe 120 and it's worth 200. There's a big discount from market value. Now it probably needs a bunch of repairs and all that stuff. And you, the wholesaler, you don't have money. So it's not like you can buy it even for 120. But when you put it under contract for 120, you have a valuable asset. That contract is worth something, because if you can sell your rights to that deal to somebody else before you have to close on it, which is what wholesaling is, just matchmaking. It's finding the seller, putting it under contract, finding a cash buyer that actually has the money. These people are rehabbers and landlords looking for good deals, but they don't have a lot of time. They're not going to go hunt down the motivated seller and work it out with them and negotiate. They'd rather have a guy like me serve it up to them on a silver platter and just say, this deal's worth 200. I'm into it for 120. I'll sell it to you for 130 and you can flip it or keep it or whatever. And they're like, I'll take it for 130. And so that was wholesaling. And that's what he did. He just got really lucky. He did it and made $80,000 on that deal and bought a car and was rolling around like he was the man. And I'm like, dude, you got lucky, or he's like, no, I got another one. It's about to close. Like I'm going to make like another 20. And so for me, a kid that didn't come from a lot of money, I saw a path. Finally, I was like, the first time in my life, I got real excited about something where it wasn't a fad to me. It was, I was like, man, why did nobody tell me about creative real estate investing sooner? I thought you needed a license and deep pockets and connections. And here my friend is, no connections, no license. He didn't even have a pen. I bet you he had to borrow the pen to sign the contract. And it was just, I got lucky. I got exposed to it. Then I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure it out, which that part sucks. Anybody who's trying to do anything kind of off the grid, like creative real estate investing, there's going to be a lot of bumps and challenges along the way. And if you go back 17 years, there's no social media, there's no online education companies, there's nothing. There's some real estate gurus, and you probably have seen them, like if you like old Tommy Vu commercials and stuff, like the dude on his boat, like with all his hot chicks. Yeah. He's like, you too can get rich in real estate. And you're like, the gurus, they would fly around and do infomercials. But besides that, there was no real way to learn. And so I struggled for about 9 months trying to figure it out. Didn't do a deal, failed miserably, quit the business, got a job as a bookkeeper. 4 months later, hated my job as a bookkeeper, went to one more real estate seminar, because that's what I was doing. I was just flying around going to real estate seminars. And it was at that seminar that I met my first mentor. And that's what actually moved the needle for me. It wasn't all the books and tapes and courses and stuff back then. They were okay. Like I learned the language of real estate, but I didn't actually do a deal until I had someone holding my hand that had done it a gazillion times. And Lyle, he was the game changer for me. And I did my first deal, quit my job as a bookkeeper, did another deal. Now, 17 years later, done thousands and thousands of transactions, own a development company, own a lending company, own a title company. I own a huge real estate portfolio, tons of Airbnbs. And then I started, obviously, Clever Investor, which is the education arm of my businesses. And just because I love to teach, and I thought, hey, it'd be kind of fun to teach other people so they didn't have to struggle like I did, and help them go from point A to point B faster. And I didn't think much of it. I was just doing it because I love to teach, and it blew up. And next thing you know, I'm a education company. I'm a real estate investor. And then social media, I was able to parlay a lot of, I was the first big real estate guy on Instagram.
And imagine you went into history teaching.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Nothing wrong. I love our teachers. It's just, we should pay them considerably more money. And then from Instagram, when I blew that up, building a personal brand is probably the best move I ever made. Besides getting into real estate, because that opened up the doors. Now I'm partners with Dan Fleischman. I'm partners with Joel Marion. I run multiple high-level masterminds with the coolest entrepreneurs and investors in the world. And it's been a game changer. So on this call, we can talk about anything. I'm an open book. Like, people like me because I talk about all the bullshit that I went through.
Which is great because I think I think we're littered with a lot of bullshit out there. And I
Mm.
think one of the biggest reasons that hold businesses back from growing is not that they're lazy or stupid, as that they just don't have the right information. So I'm happy there are people out there that really care and are actually, teaching the right information. But I want this to kind of be like the wealth building episode, right? 2021 is coming to a close soon. 2022 is coming in. Where are the opportunities right now?
I mean, there's a couple of them, and it's really cool because there's a lot of tech stuff going on right now. For me, all right, let's divide it into the virtual world and the real world, right? Because there's this new virtual world that's being born right now, virtual real estate, and people are trying to figure out, like, why would I want to own an NFT that's attached to this virtual real estate? Like, how does that affect me in the real world?
Or how am I spending $200 million on a virtual plot of land?
Yeah, it's like, how is that? A guy just sold his building for 2.5 million, and he bought it for, I think, 15,000. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was somewhere right around 15K is what he bought it for, like 3 years.
Not a bad ROI.
Oh man, can you imagine that flip? And it's all with the click of a button. Like, this is how he flipped it, boop, boop, and then he's done. So It's a new world we're living in. And I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities for people to learn how to create. It's all about assets and liabilities. Like, if we're talking financial literacy, it's real simple. Most people suck at making money and saving money, right? So you make money by gaining more skills and capabilities. You get paid more because you're solving bigger problems. People suck at saving money because we all live in this, what's in it for me, entitled, I want it now, energy field where people's lives are being thrown at us constantly on social media. And we feel this FOMO trying to keep up with everybody. And we want nice things and we want nice experiences. And we lie to ourselves and we justify it by saying, I deserve this. But the challenge is you got to sacrifice for a while to get the investing machine rolling. If you never want to get it rolling, make money, spend it immediately on cars and clothes and vacations. If you want to get it going, you got to live below your means, save as much as you can, and then immediately start deploying that into assets. Assets are simply things that give you a return on your money. It's your money making money for you. So everybody can visualize how a house you live in isn't really an asset because you're using it. You're not making money from it. You might use it as kind of a piggy bank. And I think it's probably a better piggy bank than just a bank, right? So buying a house, when people say, should I buy a house? And I'm like, yeah, if you suck at investing and you suck at saving, it's at least something. You're moving at least.
So I'd love to just interrupt because I think most people, and I've had this conversation with friends of mine, most people think owning a house is an asset. And they think it's the best asset they'll ever own. It's the best investment because, and in my mind, because that's what the bank spent millions of dollars in marketing trying to tell you it is. And I don't see it. And they're like, well, I lived in this house for 20 years. I bought it for, $250,000 and I sold it for 1.2 million. And they all try to use those numbers at me without talking about how much money they put in the house, the work they put in the house, the upkeep, everything like that. I used to think owning a house would be the biggest, is like the dream. And then until I bought my house, and then I remember it was in construction. I was standing on top of the stairs, and I was like, "This is it. Like this is the dream." Like, so I would love for you to go a little bit deeper on that and kind of get your perspective of, is your home your biggest investment or your greatest investment?
Yeah, I definitely shouldn't be. It's those people probably also have 401ks and work at a 9-to-5 job. And, I think it's just a mindset shift that you have to have. There's nothing wrong with owning a house. At least you own real estate. You have, a lot of people don't even get the chance to own real estate. For me, it's the best kind of real estate to own is real estate you can rent and earn income from. Because when you own rental property versus a property you own, when you live in it, you don't get all of the same tax benefits that you do when it's rental real estate, investment real estate. It's also when you go to sell it, you might have made some money and there's some homestead, tax benefits and stuff. But like when somebody else is paying your mortgage down, it's the whole game of investing is leverage. How do I leverage other people's money to make more money quicker? And money loves speed. So you got to go faster. And if it's just you work, you get your paycheck and you pay your mortgage, that's a very slow way to build wealth. Like, I got to own it for 20 years to make $1 million. Well, if you were to take that, it's an opportunity cost. If you would take that same energy, live below your means as much as you can, and invest and buy rental real estate, where now you have multiplication going on. You have now 8, 9, 10, 20 people paying your mortgage down, growing your wealth. You're using bank financing to leverage and be able to buy 8, 9, 10 properties. It's just a better financial model. And so for me, once I understood, it's like read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Once you understand the difference between an asset and a liability, right? Liabilities, things that cost you money; assets, things that make you money. It starts to shift just your vision. And for me, I use creative transactional real estate, which is just a high-paying job. It's not actually investing. Wholesaling is not investing. I'm just finding motivated sellers, finding cash buyers, pairing them together, making 10, 20, 30, 40 grand. And sometimes I make a lot more, but that money is earned income, just like you earn your income at your job. And once you start, I remember I used to tell myself, man, if I could just make $4 grand a month doing wholesaling, life would be awesome. And then it was like, all right, I wonder if I can make 10 grand a month consistently wholesaling. Then it was 20, then it was 50, then it was 100. Then, now it's like, can I do $1 million a month wholesaling? Right. But even if whether I make 100 grand or $1 million a month doing the transactional real estate, I'm like at the highest tax bracket you can possibly be at, because I'm making money very, very quick transactionally. The only way you get out of that rat race where the government takes half is you got to own the asset. You got to keep it. So I use wholesaling and rehabbing, which is like what you see on TV. I cherry pick out my best deals. We own a development company. I send my crews out there. We spec build new properties. We renovate old properties. We do all the stuff you see on TV. Those get us bigger paydays. I might make anywhere between 150 grand on a flip to I'm closing one in February. I'm going to make almost 800 grand on. So it's like, those are huge paydays, still getting hammered with taxes. So how I offset that is I own the real estate as much as I can. And when you own rental real estate, you get depreciation, which means the government gives you the ability, you can write it off what you bought the house for over 27 and a half years. So I think for every $200,000 worth of house, that's like $7,500 a year in write-offs. Plus, when you own rental real estate, it's a business, right? Somebody's paying rent, you're making repairs, fixes, you're replacing things. You get to write off all those expenses just like you would any business. So it just
no. So here's the thing. I think everyone understands that real estate is the play, but I think you started off this podcast by saying that you thought it was only for the billionaires to get involved and you had to have tons of money. But I think that's the perceived notion that it takes a lot of money to get involved in real estate investing. So for the listeners who aren't sitting on hundreds of $1,000s saved up, how can they start? What's the blueprint for beginners to start building their real estate empire?
Yeah, there's first up, you got to learn the language, right? That's why I started Clever Investors, to teach people the fundamentals of what is wholesaling, how does it work, what are the terms within a wholesale transaction. Like most people don't know what ARV means, for instance, stands for after repaired value. Wholesalers use this language. You need to know how it works. You need to know how contracts work. You need to know, the fundamentals. Once you start to put your toe in the water, you're going to start to see that there are a couple paths that you can take. Wholesaling is great. Like what I did, I got in wholesaling because it was a fast way to make a quick $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. So if you said, what's the fastest way to make 10 grand? I'd say, let's go wholesale a house. We could probably have it in 30 to 60 days. Once you do your first one, because your first one's the hardest. Like I said, it took me 9 months. I didn't do it. But then once I had Lyle, within 40 days, I got a deal. Because when you have somebody that can just show you, nope, you're going the wrong direction. Say this, do this, push this button, skip trace this phone number. Call. Yesterday, we did a deal live on video where we made 30 grand in one phone call. And I was videotaping my partner just because I was like, I have a feeling we're going to get a deal on this first call. And we did, and we made 30 grand. So like, once you get it and it clicks, the distance between deal 0 and deal 1 is much longer than deal 1, 2, and 2 and 3. You start to condense the time. But that's just transactional money real fast. What's going to happen is when you're putting out marketing every single day to try to find these sellers, you're going to get some sellers that own real estate. And there's going to be three situations. They own the house free and clear. They own the house with a mortgage on it, and there's no leftover equity, right? So they owe as much as the house is worth. Or they own a house, they have a loan on it, but there's a ton of leftover equity. And and they want to sell, but they're not motivated enough to sell at a massive discount. So they're the majority of the people you're going to talk to. They're like, yeah, I want to sell, but I'm not going to give my house away. There are creative strategies, and anybody listening is going to want to write these things down. Subject to wraparound mortgage, contract for deed, seller carryback. So what I just said are tools to do a no money down deal where you end up with a rental property. So wholesaling, you get a property you flip, you get cash. You do a sub two, and a subject to essentially is, imagine, I just did one like this. So imagine there's a military base nearby, and somebody buys a property like a $200,000 or $300,000 house, like a bread and butter good house, right? For kind of a starter home. They buy this $200,000 or $300,000 house. They put 3% down. They get a VA loan, and they buy this house because they don't want to live in the barracks. And they're like, cool, I live in this house. And they live there for a year, and then they get redeployed. And so now something has to happen. They have to sell their property. Now they can become an accidental landlord, keep the house and try to rent it out from wherever they get shipped off to. Or they get a phone call from me saying, hey, you ever want to sell your house? You ever want to do anything with your real estate? Let me know. They're getting my postcards. They're seeing my signs. They're getting my ads. They see me on social. They call me up and they say, Spurbs, what can I do here? I owe almost as much. I only put 3% down. If I try to sell it with a real estate agent, I'm probably going to have to maybe even come out of pocket a few $1,000s to get rid of this thing because I just got it. Like it's only a year old. And I'll say, hey, let me look at the rental rates in the area. And what do you pay on your mortgage? Oh, I pay $2,000 or $1,500 a month or whatever it is. Let's just say it's $1,500 a month. And I go, okay, well, rents in the area are $2,400 a month or $2,300 a month. So why don't we do this? I'll give you $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000. You move, you get out of there. You deed the house over to me, but leave your mortgage in place. Okay. You deed it to me. I now own the real estate. That means I'm responsible for repairs, management, everything. You leave your mortgage in place for, I don't know, let's do it for 5 years or 7 years. At which point I'll eventually cash you out. So that way there's a sunset on it. You're only going to keep the loan in your name for the next 7 years. But after that, I'll cash you out and refinance or something like that. Is that cool? And you'll get a couple grand to move out and take off. And they're like, yeah, I'll do that deal. And that's called a subject to transaction. I'm taking over the property subject to their loan staying in place. I now have a rental property. I put out a couple $1,000s, but it's pretty much turnkey. I can do whatever I want with that property now. It's my property. Just because the loan's in somebody else's name, I'm going to pay it. I didn't assume the loan. I didn't call the bank and say, put my name on the loan. We just did it. And
what happens if you don't pay? Like, so I think there's that trust worry, right?
There's a lot of trust going on there. So, okay. So let's say the seller says, hey, Cody, I don't know if I trust you doing this. It's like, hey, I get it. I wouldn't trust me either. So what we can do is we can hire a third-party servicing agent, a title company, that I make the payments into them. They pay your mortgage, and then they notify you that the mortgage got paid. So the second it's not paid, they notify you. So you're all over it. And I'll even sign this thing called a performance deed, and I'll leave it with them. And after if 60 days goes by that I don't pay, right? On the 61st day, they record this deed and it goes back into your name.
Oh, wow.
Right? So that way, worst case scenario, you get control back of your property and I get the boot. But look, I've never in my whole history ever defaulted on this. It's not in my best interest to default because I'm going to make money from this deal. So don't worry, it's going to get paid. And even if you want, let's log into your online banking system for your mortgage right now. Let's put in my bank information in there, and withdrawals will automatically come out if you want, right? And I'll pay it, like whatever I got to do to make you feel good. I'm an open book. You can call me every month if you want. And I'll tell you, hey, dude, it's been paid. Here's proof. I don't care. But once you're comfortable with it, now let me move to the next stage. I pay you a few grand. You move out. It's not my house. I shampoo the carpets and I'm ready to go. If I rent that property, there's a lot of things I could do. I can rent that property and make the $2,400 a month. I can lease option the property, which is rent to own, where I put out signs that say, hey, this property is available, buy like rent or rent to own. And someone shows up and says, well, what does that mean? Well, you're going to give me $10,000 or $15,000 as an option deposit. I'm going to sell you this house for a predetermined price over an 18-month option period. And you're going to pay me $2,500 a month rent every month until you execute the option. But it's like basically like, you're going to lock in a price today of what you're going to buy the property for within 18 or 24 months.
And you get to try it out.
And you get to try it out. If in a lot of entrepreneurs like that, because if you start a business, you can't just start a business and then go to a bank and say, can I borrow money to buy a house? They're going to say, well, no, we need 2 years of tax returns.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm a normal person, but I kind of have a ding on my credit and I know I need 18 months to fix my credit. So I want to move. I don't want to move every few years. I'm sick and tired of like competing against other landlords and tenants and all that. So let me just buy it. Let me rent to own. So at least I feel like there's a path for me to home ownership. So there's a lot of reasons people will give you 10 or 15 grand as an option deposit. Well, guess what? I get to keep that. If they don't execute the option to buy the property in 18 months, they just walk away. And I keep their 10 grand as their option deposit because an option price it's not refundable. It's not like a pet deposit. They're giving me 10 grand for the right to buy this property and lock their price in for the next 2 years. So if the price, the value of the property goes up, but they lock it in down here, then they get all that extra value. You get what I'm saying? So it's a smart move to do a lease option sometimes. I could also resell or finance it. I can also, if there's no HOA, turn it into an Airbnb. Boom. I just created all this opportunity from one creative deal with a seller that had very little options. They talked to a realtor. The realtor's like, this is probably the most I can get. Now they're going to be upside down. Other investors are offering them lowball cash offers. And here I come in, the clever investor, and I say, I got a path for you.
The biggest thing I see when I talk to entrepreneurs is that it's very short-sighted in the sense of they'll look at it and sit there and say, that seems like a lot of hard work to make an extra $2,000 a month, right? Like that seems like a lot of hard work. The problem is your $2,000 sitting in a bank makes you absolutely nothing, or your money sitting in a bank doesn't even make you $2,000. So you have to look at these things. And something I don't see being pushed as hard as I think it should be is the importance of like compounding. And even in business, right? You just need to get incrementally better in certain areas of your business to have monumental growth because they compound over each other. So what's your response to people when they sit there and say, well, that doesn't, that will take me forever till I'm rich. If I just do that one deal and I'm making $2,000 a month, I'm not riding around. I have no Lamborghini. I have nothing. I don't have my wealth building.
If you're going to do one, I say, don't do it. First off, every entrepreneur I know that's successful is an obsessed maniac that is like relentlessly trying to grow and blow ups and just dominate whatever they're into. So I feel like for me, that's one deal, right? That deal, though, is giving me tax benefits of owning the real estate. I get write-offs, I get depreciation. I can when I sell it, I can 1031 exchange it into another asset and keep growing the money. There's a lot of benefits of owning the real estate. Like I said, if I do a lease option, I'm not just going to make two grand. I'm going to make 10 grand or 15 grand up front. I get paid 3 times in a lease option. Let's say I locked that house in for 200 and I lease option it for 250. And 18 months goes by. They've given me 10 grand up front. Well, I put out 2 or 3 or 5. Let's just say I put out 5 grand, but they give me 10. So I had to put out 5 to get into the deal. I got 10 immediately. So I'm still up 5. All right. So I got 5 grand plus my monthly rent, whatever that cash flow is. That's my middle piece. And then at the end, let's say they do execute the option and they buy the property for 250. Well, 2 things happen. During the 18 months, we were making mortgage payments. A portion of every mortgage payment goes to principal and a portion of every mortgage payment goes to interest. So my balance was going down over the 18 months. So I'm gaining some value there. And they bought it for 50 grand more than I promised to buy it for. So there's 50 grand there. So like, this isn't just like, oh, I'm going to make a few $1,000s. No, there's actually 3 ways we're getting paid in one creative deal. Now do 10 of those in a year. You don't need a ton of real estate to become a real estate millionaire. You have 10 houses, you're going to be there.
But everyone talks about like multifamily units. Get involved in the multifamily units. You have Grant Cardone saying, "Come into my fund." And go into my equity and go into my deals. So I think people always assume of like, oh, if I buy one house and one house and one house, I got to look after that one house. And if someone doesn't pay the rent or someone leaves, I have problems. But multifamily is the place to go. But I can't afford multifamily. So they dismiss this whole real estate game altogether.
Look, there's nothing wrong with thinking big and going into multifamily. It's a different animal. You can't do as many creative, no money down things. So a lot of guys like me that were trying to hustle and make something out of nothing, the multifamily path looked a lot harder to make something out of nothing than the single family. What I did is I went single family, got really good at it, and then started owning and buying multifamily. So I eventually got there. It just took me an extra step because I had no money. And I think Grant Cardone, what I like about Grant Cardone and his messaging is cash flow, own real estate, multifamily, grow wealth. I love all of that. The fund, my thing is, look, I would never invest in that fund because I can earn more than 4%, right? A normal person might think 4% returns is great. I just don't think 4% or 5% returns are great. But I'm also an investor. So I have a hard time even when my friends call me up and say, do you want to invest in this company? Or you want to invest in this crypto or this, and I'm like, well, I know real estate. I know how to create returns in there. And sometimes I'm creating magnificent returns. So I think it's just your skill set, what you're comfortable with. The important thing is you're doing it. That's all that matters to me. Jump into multifamily, jump into a fund, buy some digital real estate, because the first connection for me is my friend bought and built a digital building in the Sandbox, turned it into a CBD company. People showed up in the metaverse, bought digital CBD that actually got shipped out from their real CBD company to their house. So they buy in the metaverse, but a physical thing gets shipped in the real world. Super crazy. That's when it connected for me. And I was like, oh, this is actually like a thing. Like, it's no different than driving down a freeway and seeing billboards. Well, if I have goggles on and I'm walking around and I'm in digital Times Square and there's a billboard there, that billboard's making money. Somebody's paying for that view. And if there's 800,000 views a month on this section of the metaverse, they're printing cash.
Crazy. It's crazy. This whole thing's crazy. But is there a wrong time to buy real estate? Because we all hear housing prices are too high. Is there a wrong time to start?
There's a wrong time to buy retail, meaning pay retail, pay full price. I'm not a pay full price kind of guy. I buy below the median. I find good deals. I'm a deal hunter. And if you develop that skill where you can build the relationships or have the marketing savvy to generate opportunities, remember, look down your average American street right now. 85% of those people that own that real estate will never sell at a discount. They want to sell at retail. And unless you're going to do an Airbnb or something that like really magnifies the returns of the real estate, it'd be a bad investment. But the other 15% of those houses and the homeowners that own them are going through a divorce, losing their job, being relocated. The house is old and ugly, can't get, like, think of this. If I'm trying to market in Phoenix, Arizona, I have all this competition, right? It's a very hot market. All the hedge funds are here. Everybody's trying to get deals. If I just go to one of the tertiary markets, meaning like a little border town, like Kingman, Arizona, that is a very fun and easy market for me to do real estate deals. They're smaller deals, and there's lots of like manufactured homes on land. Well, it's a double wide trailer, basically, manufactured at home, built in the 1990s, that the only way they can trade those assets and sell them is through seller financing. So it's a great rental market. They all rent between, $1,100 and $1,200, $1,300 a month. I might be able to get into one of those where the seller is my bank. They own it free and clear. They seller finance me for $400 a month, and I rent it for $1,200 a month. I get 20 of those easy. I go scoop up. I just crush that tertiary market, scoop up 20 of those, rent all of them on a lease option or a rent to own program, and I forget about them. And now I have an extra $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in pure cash flow coming in just from one little tiny market that most people overlook. So I wouldn't go buy retail, but I would deal hunt. And there's a strategy for every market cycle. So like the reason people love what I do is I'm always so far out in front of the curve, marketing wise and creative wise, strategy wise, that I like me talking about this virtual real estate, right? Nobody else really knows how to do it. They're not talking about it. I'm already putting on web classes and webinars, teaching people and it's not like I know everything. I'm bringing in experts that know this stuff. It was like, how did you build your digital building on your digital plot of land? Like, oh, it's a programmer. Well, where did you get that programmer? How do they know what to do? How much does that cost? How do you get an ROI on it? And then I learn as I interview people, just like you're doing with me. And next thing you know, I got a class on digital real estate. And it's going.
I could interview for the next 6 hours. I don't think I'm putting on a real estate masterclass just yet, but yeah, that's essentially, that's what I like about you is that you're always ahead. And one of the things that I noticed about you is that you're entirely into coaching and not just about real estate, but money too. If you follow your content, I mean, anyone who follows your content knows that. And I think entrepreneurship and financial literacy, unfortunately, do not go hand in hand. Right. And I think there's big problems. And I'm often shocked about how many business owners suck at money and don't even know their numbers. And I'm even more fascinated with people's mindset around money. I know you're passionate about this topic. So what are the most common mistakes, I guess, the myths, the falsehoods when it comes to money and how people should approach, and what does the winning money mindset look like to you?
Yeah, a couple thoughts on that. First off, you can never save your way to wealth. You are on a backwards treadmill going the absolute wrong direction. The government takes their piece. Inflation is eating your dollars up. And most people think that either their primary residence is saving their way to wealth, or they'll just make money and save it. It's stupid to hold on to money. Money is a tool. And I said it earlier, money loves speed. The faster you can get it to come in, the faster you can get it to go out, the better off you're going to be. Now, it's all what it's going out for. The assets, limiting liabilities. So for me, when I think about money, most people have a broken money mindset because of the way they were raised. And for me, I would go to my dad and I would say when I was a little kid, hey, Dad, can I get this new bike? And he'd go, what am I, made of money? What do you think? Money grows on trees? Like we would hear these sayings. And so they would imprint on us. And that's because one of two things happened. Either your parents had a hardcore scarcity mindset because of the Great Depression and what they grew up around. They were like, they were hoarders, right? They would hoard their money. They'd all say like, I want to be rich and I want a lot. So they'd say these things, but really their actions were the opposite. Their actions were holding the money. And that's how my parents were. My dad's dad died when he was 13 years old. So he had to be responsible right out of the gates as a little kid. And so he just always had this really tough time investing money. He had a very big scarcity mindset. My mom was a saver. She always would tell me, Cody, you got to save your money. You got to get a good CD. You got to get a good return on a good CD and save your money. And so that's how I thought about money my whole life. And
they also grew up, like my parents too, grew up at the time where the interest rate at the banks were like 8%. So they actually could save their money in the bank.
It wasn't a horrible deal, but I know my parents' outcome. They're not rich,
yeah.
And they did that program. And I'm the first millionaire and multimillionaire in my family. So it wasn't until I got around my first mentor that I started to shift my language patterns about money. And it was just me saying to myself, it's kind of, I'm not a big fan of manifesting, but I think it's important that you start talking to yourself about money differently. and try to break those shackles. So for me, I would say things like money loves me, money loves to be around me, money loves to multiply around me. I'm good with money, right? And that was the kid that used to be at the overdraft or at the bank counter trying to waive my overdraft fee, being like, I know it's my fourth time asking you, please waive this fee. So I had to work really hard on it. And a great book, this is one of my favorite books. Let me make sure I get the guy's name. It's like Morgan Housel. Hold on. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Great book.
Great book. Great book. So read that, The Psychology of Money. It'll at least get you thinking the right way about money. And now, like everything I do is you mentioned entrepreneurs really sucking at KPIs and tracking stuff. A KPI is a key performance indicator. As an entrepreneur, you cannot wing it. Winging it's not a strategy. You cannot fly blind. You have to see your numbers. And I think it's scary for people that aren't good at math to really stare at numbers all day long and really understand and try to extrapolate and understand what it is that it's telling you. And so for me, my team, I drive them crazy, but every day I'm getting reports. Every day I'm seeing KPIs. I build out Plecto dashboards and really pretty visuals because I need to see trends over time. Without it, I'm just not smart enough to know the next move to make. But when we all stare at this dashboard, this like CEO dashboard, where we're like, oh, okay, I can see these milestones and what's happening trending over time. I had it backwards. Like I used to pride myself on top line revenue as an entrepreneur. We did 5 million this year. We did 10 million this year. We did 25 million this year. And I was like growing this company and like, it felt so good to say I did 25 million in a single year. But my problem is as I grew, my cash flow went significantly down. And that was what I should have been focusing on. I should have been focusing on profit margins and cash flow. And instead I focused on top line revenue. So all of our incentives for our sales guys and everything were all around top line revenue.
So, but would you say that was the wrong strategy or just the wrong strategy as you started growing? Because I see the debate, right? When you're starting a business, it's about top line revenue. You got to grow top line because you need to bring people in, and then you could always trim the fat later on. So was it just the wrong strategy at the level you were at, or was it the wrong strategy altogether?
Once you cross over the $3 million mark, I think that's about when I started noticing. And the analogy is it's a balloon, right? With a bunch of holes in it. When the balloon is just barely blown up, the holes don't make a big difference. But when they really blow up, all of a sudden it's like the holes are a problem. And for me, cash flow management is the most important skill set for a business owner, because it's the hardest thing to understand why your cash flow is so bad. And once you set those bad standards, it's really hard to unwind it because you affect culture. So I just screwed up because I never changed. I never evolved as an entrepreneur. I just kept doing the same thing over and over and over. And once I got to about 75 team members, I used to call them employees, right? But now I call them team members, right? Because I've evolved.
I like that.
Yeah. Who wants to work for somebody else? I mean, nobody does. They're all entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. They're entrepreneurs. And around 75 team members is when I really started taking culture seriously. We always were having fun, and I had private chefs and I had team bonding experience and stuff, but I just did it naturally. I wasn't really thinking about how it was affecting my team. Then the wheels started to fall off, because a lot of the people that I was building the business with, I started to realize those aren't the people I'm going to end the game with. And that's a hard thing as an entrepreneur, because I have a lot of loyalty in me. But pay structure was wrong. Commission structure was wrong. The way we were walled off in certain departments where I couldn't, as the business owner, see certain things because of the hands-off approach I took at certain levels of the business. And the people that were with me in the beginning, they felt like it was their company. They felt like they deserved more. And if you ask the number one sales guy in your company what they want, they always say more. And I failed miserably. And I'm glad now looking back that I did, but we hit that 25 million mark and I crashed fast back down, trying to unwind a lot of the bad stuff that we had set up. It was a very hard learning two or 3 years it took us to work our way through all of that. But I came out the other end and I realized that alignment equals velocity. And the number one mistake most entrepreneurs make is they know what they do, they know how they do it, they know why they do it, but they don't know how to explain to their best quality team people what's in it for them if they do it alongside you. So it's this vision, it's this alignment problem on CEOs and entrepreneurs have. And once I understood how to go deeper with a person and really pull them out of the work environment and get to know their family, I had people that I had no idea their wife was dealing with like stage 2 or 3 cancer. And here I am running the business like a boss, right? Like, very almost like unemotional when I have these team members that are very emotional. And I'm wondering why they don't look at it the same way as me. And it's because they have all this heavy stuff going on. So once I started breaking bread with them, working out with them, going on vacations with my team, I used to wall off my team and say, there's this line that I can't cross, right? This fraternization type line where it's like, I don't want them to know me too much. They won't respect me if they know me. Like, it was this weird dynamic, and it was my own bullshit, self-limiting beliefs. Once I crossed that and I understood how to go deeper with people, that's when the alignment started happening. Because now I can build the 3-year plan and talk to you about your bonus structure and look at my cash flow metrics and my profit metrics and say, these are the incentives for you guys to get what you want out of your life and your job. This is what I want, and this is how we get alignment between the two of us.
And you also learn that what actually motivates them, because you think some people just think if I give that person a raise, they're happy and they'll stay with me forever, and they don't want the raise. They just may want the title change without any money raised. They may just want recognition or being put on a different project or a bunch of different things. And people just think throwing money at the problem is the solution.
And that's what I did. My first 6 or 7 years as a CEO. Whenever somebody complained, I'm like, dude, I'm paying you so well. And I would just give them more money, thinking that, and that bought me like another 6 months, another 8 months before we fell back right into the same rut. And it doesn't matter. I had a guy I was paying over $1 million a year. I bought him a Rolls Royce. I gave him the keys. I bought him a mansion up on a hill. He was my number one sales guy. He was never going to be satisfied. Never. Because that's not what actually mattered. What mattered is how they felt. Once I got that, I was like, oh man, first off, I wasted a ton of money. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. Also, another key that I learned along the way, just for anybody listening, never stop hiring. I stopped hiring during certain phases of my growth because I was like, oh, I already got my team members. I already have this. You need to have a perpetual employment machine where you're always hiring for all the best positions. And you should feel very uncomfortable putting those ads out because you should be asking for the $500,000 a year CFO. Oh, but I can only afford $90,000. Well, put out the ad and tell people you're going to pay them $300,000. Because that $300,000 CFO that rolls in knows how to make $25, $50, $100 million a year. They know how to run that level of a company. You don't know any of that, right? You're just the entrepreneur with the vision trying to get stuff going. That person has been there, done that, and can get you to the next level. The chief operating officer, pay them crazy freaking money and tell them it's your responsibility to figure out how to make this vision happen. Once I started constantly hiring, and all my business, my businesses just went.
See, I think I that's another mental map that people don't do as entrepreneurs, is that they think, oh wow, if I hire, it depletes my cash flow, it depletes my income. But yeah,
or my power.
See, yeah, it's funny because like I'll use myself as an example, because there are times where I'm like, oh, should I hire this person? I'm like, yes, it's the right move. It's the right move to do. And I'm like, is it the right move to do? It's going to cost money. And I start to look at it. I'm like, can this person bring in X amount more than I'm actually paying them? If not, they're the wrong person. That's kind of how I look at it, because, and they don't have to necessarily bring in that money, but if they free up my time or someone else's time to go bring in that amount of money, that's how I look at it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Just think of this. I want to hire you, and I'm like, I'm going to hire you for $350,000 a year. And you're like, dude,
plus the house, plus the Rolls Royce, we could talk.
You get it all. You get it all. Okay. But let's say that's a huge stretch for me. And I'm scared to death to tell you, yes, let's do this. But everything that I've seen from you so far, everything you've shown me, you're just playing you played at a different level. Okay. If in 90 days, I'm like, that was a huge mistake. I should have never done that. And I don't get that. Thank God for Jason. Thank God for this person. Thank God this guy is in my life. If I don't feel like that, 90 days, I'm like, dude, this isn't working. You have 30 days to pull your shit together and get on track or we're done. Right? So don't think like of the annual salary that you guaranteed. If in 30, 60, 90 days, you're not feeling this love and thankfulness for this person, it's not going to work anyway. So you're really only spending 10 grand to figure out if you can level up 5 levels. So don't overthink it. Hire the best, put them in the right seat of the bus and empower them to take your vision there. The second I stopped going to meetings because I was like, I need to fire myself. I got to get out of this. Like, who do I think
I feel the same. I feel the same way. I feel like anytime I've ever hit a roadblock, it's because it was me. I was the roadblock.
Oh yeah. I walk into meetings and I leave and I think, well, I crushed that meeting. And then everybody's left there and they're all like, what just happened? We're changing directions. We need to build this. Sperber's going to be pissed if we don't, da, da, da. And I'm like thinking I'm the man. And in reality, I just caused a tornado. Get out of your own way by hiring people. They'll do it better, faster, and more. You're going to bring in a new level of creativeness to your company that you just don't see.
I love this, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I'll wrap up with a couple of questions if you'll let me. And number one is, let's talk really quickly about debt, because I think that's one of the biggest things that get thrown around there. And I guess what's considered good debt, what is bad debt, and how can the listeners properly leverage debt?
Yeah, I love debt. And there is good debt and bad debt. I mean, I think it's pretty common sense at this point. Most people know credit card debt, high interest credit card debt is bad debt, unless there's a way that you can, let's say I have a killer real estate deal, like it's a banger. I know without a shadow of doubt, every cell in my body's like, this thing's a moneymaker, but I don't have any cash right now. And I can't go around to grandma or mom and dad and borrow money. But I have this credit card that I can, do a cash advance on or something like that. I'm okay if you really believe in something, you cash advance it, you go do the deal real fast, pay it back. You're just leveraging money. It might be high interest money and it's not the best money. And hopefully you don't have to ever do that again because now you made money but I'm okay with that. But if you take that credit card and go on a shopping spree, stupid. Right?
But we were all taught, like, or at least I was, you have a loan with the bank, pay it off as quick as possible. You want to pay it off as quick as possible. No debt.
Look at. All right, let's just take a house, for instance. Right now, interest rates are, anywhere between 3 to 4%. Okay. Inflation is higher than that. Over a 25-year period or 30-year period, if you have a 3% interest rate loan on a house over 30 years and inflation's at 5, 4, 5, 6%, you're actually over a long period of time having a negative interest rate to own that real estate. I know that's a hard concept to understand, but just inflation is the great debt killer. So any good debt you have, good low interest rate debt, like every single one of I owned a ton of real estate free and clear, tons. We went to every property and loaded it up with good debt because I see where the future is inflation. We're printing too much money right now, and it's not going to stop. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And when inflation keeps going up, that good debt gets eroded over a long period of time. So it's actually a better play for me than owning free and clear real estate. So good, if you can borrow private money from friends and family to fund your real estate empire or whatever, as long as you know how to deploy it correctly, for me, it's actually not coming to me. When I borrow private money, I'm not actually walking around to all my friends and family saying, can I borrow some money? It's like, no, here's a house. It kicks butt. It produces this. Here's all the numbers. Here's the math. Give me the money and I'm going to give you this back. Right? Plus extra. Let's go. And when you realize I'm offering you an opportunity to get involved in these hot deals that I'm uncovering because of my skills and capabilities, it's a different conversation. So I love good debt. I think you should Yeah, I'm raising a fund right now. I'm doing my first, it's a Reg D fund for accredited investors only. And it's an Airbnb fund because I'm really nerding out on luxury Airbnbs right now. I own a ton of them. They all print ridiculous money. And so I was like, you know what? In order for me to get 50 more $2 million houses in the best locations across the globe, I need to raise some money. It's better off in my pocket than it is yours because I guarantee I'm going to deploy it. I'm going to make that money, magnify, and I'm going to hand you back lots more than you gave me. And at the same time, you're going to get perks in my Airbnb portfolio, right?
Love it. Let's wrap up with something that you talked about that opened up a lot of doors for you. And this is, we'll end with this, is the concept of having a personal brand, or the importance of having a personal brand. Why was that so important to you? And I know you did it at a time where there weren't a billion gurus trying to get out there and build their personal brand. So what would be your advice to the listener right now on how to build their personal brand too?
Probably focus. Unless you're really great on video or you start a podcast, because those are two great ways to build a great brand. You hammering YouTube for 2 years or hammering a podcast for 2 years. I would say focus all your love and energy on Instagram. Instagram's a hackable platform. You can grow it really fast. Getting a blue check mark is not difficult. People think it's difficult. Get in a bunch of publications and submit for your blue check and they'll give it to you. Get on TV and they'll give it to you. So for me, I leaned in on Instagram because it's a hackable platform. If let's say I post your content on my page of 1.2 million, a lot of my followers are going to jump over to your page and see what's up, right? And if they like what they see, they'll probably follow you. Well, there are thousands and thousands of pages that all have millions and millions of followers on each page where you can pay them to post your content on their page, driving all their followers back to your page. That's a hackable platform. It's a marketing play, right? So don't be afraid to spend money on building your personal brand. Instagram's like the business card of the 2021, 2022. If I roll up and they look me up and they go, oh, Cody Sperber, clever investor, blue check. You think they're worried about vetting me any further than that? 1.2 million followers, right out of the gates, they're paying attention to everything that I say. So the doors are open. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars growing my page over a 3-year period. And I did that because sales cures everything. I'm a marketer at heart. I believe that my message of financial literacy and financial independence is more important than those couple $100,000. I knew I could leverage the platform and the notoriety to get into deals, get into businesses, get into partnerships, raise money. So it's worth it. I think if you have confidence in what you're doing, if you love what you're doing, whether you're baking cakes, you're doing podcasts, or you're a real estate dude, look at the Instagram like a platform like, hey, if a portion of my marketing budget can go towards growing my page, there's a guy out there, his name's Chris Thunder. He manages these contests and stuff. If you needed to put 10,000 real followers on your page, he can have it done in a week. So all of a sudden you have a party, right? The party started. The first step to doing it is cleaning up your page so you don't suck when they land on your page. Second step is get the party started, get into some of these giveaways and contests and stuff to get your first 5 or 10,000 people. Then after that, stop doing the giveaways because the giveaways don't really give you great followers. They just give you followers. They're at least real, but they're not the most engaged. And then you do shout outs on pages. So one of the pages I like to do shout outs on is Jason Stone's Mill Mentor page.
Yep.
You reach out to Mill Mentor, he'll say, give me $500 or $300, and he's got over 6 million followers. He'll go, give me your content and give me $500 and I'll post your stuff. Okay, well, I just got, 800 new followers because Jason posted my stuff and they all came back to my page and followed me. So now those are more targeted followers because a lot of his followers are entrepreneurs.
Yep.
It's a game. And if you do that, one day you'll wake up and you'll have 10, 20, 30, 40,000 followers. Guess what? Most people have less than 1,000. So even 30,000, 20,000, I think you have what, 15, 20,000, 30,000?
I think 16? We're at 16.
16,000. That's a lot of followers, dude. Like, that's a lot of followers. Most people have less than a few hundred. So right away, you reached it. This is how we got contact. We know a lot of people, but I looked you up. I saw your page. I saw what you were doing. I liked it. You never sent me a business card.
Love it. Cool.
You know, it's like, this is how we communicate now.
All right, let's plug you for the listeners who love this episode. They want to learn more about you. They want to get in touch. They either want coaching, they want to invest with you. They just want to be around on your journey. How can they find you?
At Clever Investor on all social platforms. Cleverinvestor.com is my real estate education company. I'll give you some free stuff. Fliphousesbook.com. It's my book. It's free. It's a digital book. It's on wholesaling. So if you want to learn how to do no money down real estate, go to fliphousesbook.com. And if you want to learn how to do the creative no money down rental portfolio building, like I talked about, that's the book is housesforfree.com. And you look, if you DM me the word invest, I'll give you more free training. So just go to Instagram, DM me the word invest, and I'll give you a bunch of free training. And that's it. Like,
can't get better than that.
I'm pretty interactive.
Love it. Thank you so much, Cody. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want, check out our most recent video over here. And this one is the one YouTube thinks you'll like. But if you really enjoyed watching, please do me a favor, like and subscribe over here. Thank you so much.